start?
Well, I know it's busy season now starting for you. I saw what have I seen lately? A bunch of signs popping up all
Yeah,
over Trussville. Are you out putting them all out, or you got people helping, or what?
I deliver them if I have time. I have a bunch of people. We have
Yeah,
teachers and retired teachers, and we have realtors, and we have just homeowners, senior citizens. They're all doing their part to get this thing out. Truthfully, I had no intention of running. I'm in my fourth term at Jefferson County serving as tax collector, and I had intention to serve my time out there. Uh, but this is my hometown. I love Trussville, and I want to see the best for Trussville. So actually, I was asked 8 years ago to run for the mayorship, and I declined there. Same reason. I said we have to clean up Jefferson County, stabilize it before
yeah,
we even think about that. So we've come a long ways in Jefferson County. We're in really solid footing. So hearing some things are going on. Unfortunately, the Standard and Poor's report was troubling to me, and then the the ad valorem tax initiative, I don't think it was well conceived. And I think there was a lot of pushback, but there was pushback over the whole state because people are just getting tired of governments not staying within the confines of their budget. And so a lot of pushback there, a lot of ill will. And then the the discussions and the dialogue about the approaching garbage fee decision has not sit well with a lot of people as well. So I was asked by a lot of people, hey, would you consider running because you have a financial background? On my job now, we are responsible for about $800 million a year that we collect from about 350,000 residents, Mountain Brook, Vestavia, Homewood, uh, as well as every other city, Trussville, Gardendale. And we invest those monies, and then we remit those every 15 days back to the municipalities, the fire districts, school districts. We're the funding mechanism for a lot of those entities. Stormwater authority, health department dollars, transit dollars, road and tax monies. So that's been my specialty the past 20 something years. And we've been fortunate. We have an office with CPAs and attorneys, and I manage those people on a day-to-day basis. And gotten to know probably so many mayors around the county. They call and ask us for direction or advice, or fire
sure.
district, or school district superintendent. Some superintendents have been very involved. And I used to go out to every school district once or twice a year, bringing them the projected budget numbers, the ad valorem, and sometimes a check, and sometimes if it's a new superintendent, the last year's financials and what we're expected to bring in this year so they can build their budget around those numbers.
Yeah,
And I've enjoyed working. I tell people, I remember back Hoover's days, I'd work with Dr. Farr or Dr. Mason in Mountain. We had a really good ongoing dialogue relationships, and then all the other superintendents in Jefferson County as well. And so, with my experience in governmental finances and governmental collections and investments, I think that my skill set lends itself well to address what's happening in Trussville right now,
yeah,
and hopefully lend a steady hand to it so we can quietly move on from this chapter
yeah, yeah.
of Trussville and keep our name out of Standard and Poor's going forward.
What was the like you mentioned? People asked you in 2016, and now you've decided to enter this in this 2025. What was that decision process like for you? Like was it hard to decide? Did you mull it over for a long time, or did you just kind of jump in with both feet?
Well, I have a lot of community partners here in Trussville, church, pastors, friends, business owners, and most people don't know I've worked here in Trussville for a long time, and I've had a lot of the businesses down Highway 11 during some of the lean years during COVID on payment plans. And people say, what does that entail?
Yeah,
Well, A business or a residence, we'll put them on a payment plan when they cannot meet their current obligation. So cash flow issues or whatever. So we had a lot of businesses in Trussville. So the consensus was, hey, if we're having trouble satisfying the current obligation and we were to have an ad valorem increase, that's going to be very troubling. Yeah. And being in this business for a long time, first of all, I consider public service a sacred obligation. It's a sacred task. And every time we govern, we need to govern for the entirety of a city or municipality or county, and we must give an account for how we govern, manage, or steward. So I listened to those people, and this was not a good climate to raise taxes in. This wasn't. And, we're expected to live within our own financial budgets, and government must lead by example and do that as well. So I'm thinking this is troubling. So after much prayer, after much consideration, discussion, dialogue, I agree reluctantly. I said, this interferes with my retirement on my job. So it's a personal stake for me to do this. So I jumped in after all that. It was a process.
Yeah. So that I want to ask, we'll get into some of the weeds of why you're running and important issues and all that stuff. But like sure. The ad valorem you mentioned, like obviously it got voted down. I know I spent a little bit of time at my particular polling place that day, and it's one of those things where the older people in your community, they are always going to show up to vote, and. Yeah. I was looking around and I was like, there's not many rooms I walk into now where I'm still the youngest one. That doesn't happen anymore. But it seemed to happen at the time I went to vote that day. And I was like, this thing's going to get voted down. And, I know they needed it and wanted it for, a new elementary school, renovations at the middle school, the addition on the high school, all these things. Now that they didn't get it and they do have to live within means without more government involvement and raising your taxes and that kind of thing, what would have been the alternative to funding these projects? Like, how would you go about that?
Let's go back to ask ourselves a different question. What did we do to get here? I suggested strongly some years ago to this administration that we adopt what's referred to as a smart growth or controlled growth strategy. And we look to those cities that have done that successfully, the Prattville's up in Huntsville region, South Alabama, Daphne, those cities that experienced explosive growth, they implemented what's called smart growth. And what that does is it places a 12-month review and moratorium on every new subdivision. And it's called putting kids first, putting schools first, because it allows your infrastructure to get ahead instead of lag behind. So a lot of people are reluctant to do this because they don't understand the ramifications of how it works, and they get somewhat greedy, and we want quick development. And I've heard the city council say, hey, we cannot put the brakes on development. That's very true, but neither can you put the accelerator on development. Because when you do that, you place stress upon your vital services, your already over travel arteries, your schools. So it's without smart growth approach, it's mismanagement. So we got ourselves in this predicament. So we need to manage ourselves out with wisdom going forward. Too late right now, but we need to apply this going forward. And I've spoken this out in neighborhood associations, and it seems to resonate with people. Why haven't we been doing this before? Yeah. So we should have been. We should be smart enough to do those kind of things and not put our school districts or our first responders in these predicaments, this traffic nightmare.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It does. It does. I mean, I think infrastructure's been kind of one of those things that, like, for the last at least like 20 years here in Trussville, where oh, Highway 11's the new 280, and you hear it all over town. I mean, I live out kind of the north side of the city, and Highway 11 down here is 2 lanes, and it bottles up awfully quick. And but it's like, how much can you do? Let me ask that, like, because it's a state highway, right?
That's correct.
So it's ALDOT. So like, how do you help that infrastructure when you're kind of technically not the one in control? Is it relationships? Is it like, how do you kind of work through that?
We've used the state highway narrative as a convenient excuse not to manage smartly. We knew the restrictions on that highway, but we yet chose to build high density, high volume neighborhoods, which is a mistake. We knew that. We knew the state had no intentions of widening that artery. We knew that. But it comes back to smart zoning and smart planning. I'm real good friends with someone most of you have never heard of. His name is Phil Turquette. He was the planning and zoning inspector director of the city of Birmingham for like 40 years. When he left, Hoover snatched him up in Homewood. He's regarded as the godfather of zoning and planning in Alabama. And he says this. He says, the truth of the matter, he's an expert witness now for cities or whoever else. He says he'll ask a room full of public officials. Did anyone in here, could they sum up what planning, zoning is all about in one word? They look around and they say economic growth, aesthetics, all that. He said, every one of you are wrong. The true essence of planning and zoning is safety. SAFETY. Is that development going to put more stress on the travel artery? Is it going to create more inconvenience pulling out in the morning time? So we look at planning and zoning not from purely aestheticals. Trust me, aestheticals are important, but from the impact it has on safety for our community. If we do that, we'll look at it a whole different way, and we'll take different measures to adhere to that because it's good for everybody.
Yeah, I heard sometime in the last couple of years, I was at this event at the Civic Center where an architect came and was talking about, to use your word, he was talking about aesthetics and character. He was talking about homes specifically.
Sure. Yes.
But something that he said that resonated was, once the cat is out of the bag, you can't get the cat back in the bag. Obviously, the cat is out of the bag here in terms of that kind of planning and that kind of zoning.
Yes.
How do you mitigate it going forward, or manage it going forward?
I think that what we could do, we have to understand that we're here to serve the people of Trussville, our residents, our inherent residents we have now. So we have to adopt that strategy. Smart growth, measured growth, definitely not putting the brakes on, but being more cautious and more mindful of the consequences our decisions have, and look to those successful cities who managed it exceptionally well and adopt their policies. We've been governed to a large extent by developers. We get intrigued. Government officials get intrigued by developers. They think it brings something great to our city, and it does. But the developers cannot lead the charge. The citizens, along with the representatives, the councilors, and the mayor, they need to take the initiative and take the lead. And that lends true as well in economic development. I've had the privilege of working with some of the largest lofts and condo developers downtown over the years, and it's how we incentivize these businesses. Unless you are a known entity that has a track record of success, cities these days do not need to incentivize those businesses, because we've been incentivized to our detriment. And people ask me, well, how much does the county or city incentivize those businesses downtown to experience all that growth? My answer is zero. We give them no incentives other than sometimes impact fees or something like that, because free enterprise is about these developers taking a risk, a measured risk, and there's a huge reward for them. And we're taking governmental dollars, which could be used for other things, and taking the risk out of development. And that's not the intent of incentivization. So we need to pull the reins back on that, review some of the ones that we've done, and just preclude that, because we're giving tax money away to large companies. Like I had a couple of city councilmen show up to a meeting we had a couple of weeks ago. One of the older veterans or fathers of this town, and he said, "Do you know how much money we gave Amorettes to come here?" Everybody said, "How much?" He goes, "Zero. They came here because we're a great city. They came here because we have a great community. We have great schools, great fire, police, great people, great churches." You don't have to.
Sorry to interject. I just wanted
No.
to ask, like, because Amerex came here in what, 1971 or something like that?
Yes.
Was that just less common back then, like the incentive stuff, or like did that happen much back then? Is it
Didn't
different
happen a great
today?
deal. Let me tell you where it happened, but not a great deal.
Okay.
In Alabama, the original incentivization project was Mercedes, and I believe it was Governor Jim Folsom. And there was great outcry opposed to he rolling out the red carpet, saying, "Hey, you're giving away our school kids' future. Don't do this."
Right.
It turned out to be the greatest economic investment Alabama has ever made. See, but you have to vet those suitors. Or is it a good fit for our city? Is it a good fit for our citizens? Is it going to be a good community partner for years to come? Some of these chains that we try to lure in, they have a history and tendency of after a few years selling off or leaving, and then we have an empty infrastructure, and it just creates problems for the. Yeah, but we have to be more judicious in our application of stimulus money or incentivization to lure these companies.
No, I'm right there with you on that. I'm going to ask this one super directly.
Sure, Charlie.
Do you feel late to this campaign?
No, let me tell you why. I've been involved in this community for a long time. When the school district transitioned from the county to the city, I was there, helped lay that foundation to transition it. Let me give you an example. When Faith Church, Pastor Steve's a great friend of mine. When that church opened, they didn't have their deed proper. They didn't have their institutional exemptions in place. So Pastor Steve comes down. We go to the state office, cover that. I've been working behind the scenes here in Trussville. Mr. Stocher is a good friend of his law. We've been working on any needs the city has. I work with Gene Melton. I work with the first superintendent behind this. I work with Brian Plant. I work with expansions on these businesses. I've served on many nonprofit boards here in Trussville, raising money behind the scenes. We've started a Bible study here. Has over 100 men attending, called Iron Sharpeners. We started that many years ago. Some of the college kids I was started with them, and we have professional athletes come in once a month and share their testimony, share their struggles, and share their journey from success to failure to success, being released, being picked back up, helps people deal with the transitions of life. So I've been fully invested in this community. Go to North Park. Great friends with a lot of the pastors and work with them. I've been a member of the pastors organization here in town, gatekeepers for a long, long time. So I'm vested in this community, and I've served this community for many years. So that's the way I see it. My getting in the race, because no, I've been here for a while, helping people behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, it seems like every 4 years, it seems like this cycle seems to start earlier and earlier. And then, with Mayor Choate announcing that back in like October, I think it was, that he wasn't going to run, it's like it kick-started, everybody's wheels started turning a little bit quicker. So I think it just, all those dominoes started to fall. Okay, this person announces, well, now if I'm going to run, I've got to announce. And, I've recorded a number of these with with the folks that are running for city council, and I'm like, good luck. Talk to you in 5 months when it's election time. It's like it's just so early, but I mean, we're getting into the thick of it now. We've only got a couple months till then, so now it's really time that y'all are going to all these neighborhood groups, putting your signs out, all those things. What's the campaign been like for you so far?
Man, it's been I can't describe it. We've had so many calls. We've had so many well wishes. I'm not a technically sophisticated person with Facebooks and all that, but one of the local ministers created a Facebook deal, and we had 19,000 hits in like 2 days, which is a lot, which is a lot of traffic. And I've had just tons of texts, tons of volunteers. I've ran in many races. I've never had this much enthusiasm as to volunteers putting together groups who just want effective change. They want to be listened to. They want to be heard, whether it be teachers, retired teachers, realtors, business owners. They just want to be heard. They felt like they've been left out of discussion for too long, and they think that the city's spending has gotten out of control, and evidenced by Standard & Poor's merits in the write-up, and by the debt levels that some seemingly are unsustainable. And you have to understand a balanced budget. You have to understand the ebbs and flows of the capital ratios of a city. And I don't think we've done a good job of doing that, unfortunately. And we tend to base budgets off our highest income years, and you can't do that. You have to take it over a number of years and factor in all types of consumer price indexes and all kind of things. And you build your budget safely with reserves and with emergency funds. God forbid a tornado of significant magnitude come through here. What would we do? We can't look to Washington. We look what happened up in North Carolina, up there. We're on our own to a large extent. So we have to be prepared, and we can't let our emergency reserves or capital reserves ever be depleted. Even if it seems good intentions, we have to preserve that and protect that. And we have to rein in these unacceptable debt levels. The city has gotten out of control, and we've encumbered our funds with either salaries or either pledged to secure the bond debts, which is a dangerous recipe. Looking at other cities right now, look at Helena, who overspent on City Hall and other stuff. And then you have economic downturns, which trend. And I like to say, Trussville is using the sales tax decline as a convenient narrative. 35 other cities in Jefferson County likewise experience those same plateaus, flatlining, or declines in their sales tax collections. We should not be so heavily relied upon that. We know they fluctuate, they change, and we can't blame the state of Alabama software. Every other city has the same set of rules in which we adhere to and their collection mechanisms. So we need to be more wise stewards and lay a foundation of excellence so that the next administration will not inherit these problems, and we can keep ahead with our road maintenance. We have a lot of roads that are overdue, long overdue for paving. I've been hearing that. We need to work on the roads we have before we start building new roads. I think that's fair to the people. And we've lost our definitional understanding of what basic and essential services are. A mayor and council must understand the concept of basic and essential services and how ad valorem apply to that. It's a common rendering, a common understanding that police, fire, garbage, it's embedded in there as well, roads, schools, and parks are a part of a city's basic and essential services. To say that we've been giving you garbage service free for years is a mistruth. It's a misnomer. It's not how you define those things. We've been providing those based on our ad valorem and sales tax collections. That's what a government does. Now, in the rural areas where there's no municipal corporation, they do rely heavily upon garbage service contracts. But the problem is, see, I work with these all the time. I'll have a city manager or mayor will call me up, usually a city manager of some sort, who does not have their own garbage service. Hey, is there any way that we can include garbage services in the tax ad valorem bills because people aren't paying? What happens when they stop paying? They start dumping the garbage behind businesses, dead end roads, and in neighborhoods on vacant lots. And it creates more peril and more problems than you can ever imagine. Unless you've experienced it or lived through it, they don't understand it. So we got to look real close to our budget and find where we can find those funds to pay for what those people are paying for, basic and essential services. It's the same. If the police is called to your house, how would you like to get a bill from them? Or the fire?
Right.
Same thing. We have to be good stewards, wise stewards of what we've been entrusted, and learn about government. Learn from community leaders in the county level, the state level, about how they applicate and dispense dollars and how they operate paving. And we have a new concept in a lot of places. States using micro paving. And micro paving extends and sustains the road wear of your street at a fraction of the cost. We have roads here that will be great candidates for micro paving. And the state of Alabama and some of the other cities I've talked about are using that. It's a great life extender. It looks like brand new pavement. Stuff like that we can do to save money and make our dollars go farther.
Speaking of, I wanted to ask this about some of this tax stuff because I don't understand it, and you would be the guy to ask about it. With budgets and predicting your next year and passing your budget and all that, how big of a deal, or how increasingly big of a deal has this, like the online shopping? Like when I buy stuff on Amazon, the city only gets X. If I have Kroger delivered to my house versus going down the street to the Walmart in Trussville, the city gets less on that sales tax stuff. Has that become a huge factor for cities?
It is a factor. It is a factor that every municipality, every county, state itself has to understand and work with. So this did not come as a surprise to anyone. This has been an unfolding new trend, and we have to be aware of these trends. We have to embrace these trends, and we have to budget with these trends. And we can't use that as an excuse. Like I said, 34 cities experience the same limitations of sales tax capturing because of this. But we're in trouble here because we overspent. We overbuilt in areas and we overextend ourselves and overbought. And we have to rein that in. That's the culprit. I could call out instances and specifics, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to embarrass anyone. We want the city to move forward. And we want this city to move forward in excellence with our school system, with our first responders, with our city employees, with everyone going forward for many years to come.
I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but the garbage fees stuff. I had seen what former Mayor Melton wrote about it and all that. What was the? Why do you think they have batted that idea around, and would it matter?
Well, I think it matters because I'm in a convenient place of authority where I hear from those mayors that are having difficulty collecting and people paying. So we have the other problem. Who's going to go out and pick up that garbage? And your complaint levels will begin to escalate at exceedingly great rates because it's remarkable how many people refuse to. I collect taxes. I deal with these people, and I can tell you how it works. Unfortunately, we have the same 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people every year at the tax sale who don't pay on time. The properties go to tax sale. They end up having to come down and redeem it. We deal with the same people every year. most of the people are really good, well-intentioned people, and that they live off different means of salary. It fluctuates, and they get behind and have cash flow issues like everyone else. But I think we're going to be surprised when we implement that. And I would, if I'm fortunate enough to be hired by the city to manage, basically the voters are hiring a new individual to come in with a specific and hopefully a varied set of skill sets that he can apply to managing this like a company, like a business. And sometimes you can fix one thing and you create or break several others at the same time. And that's what's going to happen. That's why I'm opposed to the imposition of this garbage fee tax, whatever you want to call it. Because we had several people say, "Hey, my mom is on a fixed income. She barely gets by with $1,100 Social Security check she gets every month. So I guess we'll pay her fee too. So we'll pay ours and hers too." And it's just not fair. We hear that in community meetings I've been going to, and it's more people out there than you think in that situation without a great deal of expendable income to address these extra expenses they're being asked to carry. And it's not fair to someone who's worked their entirety of their life giving, giving, giving. I mean, in some communities, some states, they have what's called a tax credit plan. When someone pays their ad valorem a certain amount of quarters or years of life, they're exempted out the rest of their life, which is actually great. Yeah. Alabama's been oppositional to that because we're so dependent on those monies for school taxes. Right. You know, in Alabama, you get a 65 exemption. A lot of people think, "Hey, I'm 65, I don't have to pay tax anymore." That's just untrue. You're exempted out on the state portion. You continually pay school taxes, municipal taxes, county taxes, other taxes, but it's only a portion of the totality of your responsibility. So you never get out of paying taxes in Alabama unless you're 100% totally disabled, attested to by 2 physicians.
Right. And I guess what I meant by like, and does it matter or would it matter, is the shortfall that the city has found itself in. If they implement that, I'm just going to say this because I say it a lot in my daily life, and I think it's a good metaphor, but it seems like that would be a fart in a hurricane.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna go back. But let me give you one example. It brought to my attention. We had $8 million gymnastics facility addition onto the Civic Center.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a small group of individuals. And it's wonderful and great that it accommodates these kids. But as I've been told by other businesses, the city never wants to find itself competing against local businesses. We already have gymnastic schools in our community that pays taxes. So a lot of business owners say, "Hey, we don't want to have to compete against the city we live in. It's not right." So like I can promise you, if I'm hired by the citizens, it's God's will, we're not going to be wasting. I'm not going to say, I use that word wasting in very carefully, on an $8 million gymnastics center that only benefits a few people. That's a lot of money. A lot of money that was misspent with little public input. And I think, speaking of public input, we have to have greater transparency in our transactional dealings. A lot of people are very upset on the Glendale issue. Yeah. They've been upset on lots of issues because they feel like they haven't had a voice, or they haven't been able to understand or hear the full scope of the issues because there's been little dialogue allowed in the city council meetings. I know we can't elaborate for 2 hours in a city council meeting. There are limitations, but people have a right to know and to hear and to see what's going on. They're entitled to that. And sometimes they feel like they're a nuisance trying to inquire when really they just want to know what's going on. So I think we have to have public clarity and disclosure. not after the city council meeting. That's a futile point. Let's have it before. Let's never reserve public comment after we vote on something.
Right.
Let's have public comment first. People get very suspicious of any action where we vote quickly, adjourn, come back, and then have, hey, it's time for public comment. That's not the way it works. That's not the way government's designed to work.
Yeah. I've always thought, like, and again, not just this administration, all administrations that I've covered since 2010-ish or something like that. I've always thought, being a journalism communications background, that the city could have done a better job at its, I don't want to say PR, but, you know, just getting stuff out there, not just posting a meeting notice just at City Hall or whatever, or just sending it via email to the people who have asked to be on that email chain. Like, you kind of got to meet people where they are. I'm not saying you send out a mailer every other Tuesday to, 30,000 homes or 15,000 homes or whatever, but finding creative ways to let people know ahead of time, this is happening on this date at this time, and honestly, not having things added to that meeting at the 11th hour.
Yes. It seems to some it's a disingenuous move to.
It makes it feel like it. Yeah.
It makes it feel. It's perceived that it's dysfunctional or disingenuous. Like for instance, in our jobs, we have very stringent notification requirements before we auction a house, sell a house, or notices. The Supreme Court's rule clearly that residents must have what's referred to as constructive notice before we interfere with their rights. How do you do that? We do it by mailings, by publications, by online. We use a variety of methodologies to get the word out and satisfy the Supreme Court's requirement of such. A lot of young people say, hey, we need digital notifications. That's wonderful and great. But the older clientele, they're not into this to a large extent. We still have people that come to the courthouse every year and pay their taxes in cash. A lot of people. I mean, it's diminishing year by year, but we have substantial lines with substantial individuals, mostly older people, who insist upon paying by cash. Those are the type of people that citizens that really need to get, mail notifications that we're going to meet and what we're meeting about, what we're voting on, and give them the background so they'll be informed. And that has not happened from all my understanding and from watching these city council meetings online. And, I applaud anyone that wants to run for city council, serve on city council, like I said earlier on, or mayor. It's a sacred task, a sacred responsibility that we will have to give an account to one day, how we serve, how we function, decisions we make. Hopefully they benefit the entirety of the city, not just a few people. And we have to be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah. I like, I can't remember the city. I'm like 90% sure it's Homewood, but like, I think I probably saw it either on Twitter or Facebook at one point, but it was a city council meeting, whether it was a planning and zoning meeting, there's that notice, but then there's, a PDF attachment on their website that says, like, this is the agenda for tonight, and you can go ahead and print it off and all that, as opposed to, an email to whoever is on that list. At least that way, if you can kind of change people's habits in a way, like, hey, this is the place to go to get this, and all your information's there, it's there, timely, and anyone has access to it. Even if you're older, it's there, and it's there. And I really liked the way that, I'm pretty sure it was Homewood. I really liked the way they did that, so that ahead of time you had enough time you could print your own, come up with your questions if you wanted to attend, that kind of thing, and go. As opposed to, honestly, what we see a lot of times is Facebook rumors or something. Hey, I heard this
Yeah.
is happening. Do you know if this is happening? Do you know if that's happening? And you eliminate a lot of rumor, you eliminate a lot of guesswork, and it's more transparent.
I like that. I'm a big fan of looking at other places that do it more successful than us. And for a moment, I don't think that we at Jefferson County or at Trussville have all the answers. And sometimes we have to look for other jurisdictions that do it better, more efficiently than we do, and adopt those policies, adopt those types of habits to make things better and smoother for us. It'll help everyone in the long run. I agree totally. That's a great idea.
I wanted to ask you about one of these others. I'm looking at your website, and I had the immediate question because I got no idea how you would do it. How do you close the eastern area landfill if it's in the city of Birmingham?
Well, we have to understand going back when that sector Magnolia sector was built, the question was asked to developers, hey, we don't feel comfortable moving near a landfill. Well, they had been in contact with the city of Birmingham. The city of Birmingham conveyed to them that the facility was near capacity and they had plans to shutter it and expand it elsewhere. So that was they relied upon that statement, that communication with the city of Birmingham when they first began to build. Well, obviously Birmingham had absolutely no intention of reopening using the other landfill. So what they did is they kept increasing capacity, building it up, enlarging it. And if you look downtown, there were several plants, several good words, the industrial distributors of pollutants, and community activism, one by one, closed most all of those around the Birmingham metropolitan area. It starts with, and the reason and how they go about doing that, when you have ADM violations or if you have EPA violations, it is especially cost prohibitive to defend those types of cases. And if the city of Birmingham is getting close, and I'm not going to give away our strategies to do that, but if they're getting close to capacity, you through either, as I say, through mediation, negotiation, last choice, litigation,
Sure.
pressure the city of Birmingham into a settlement. They would not want to be in protracted litigation with their finances to defend this. It's indefensible because my niece lives near there. My sister lives there. I have family, and when I started going over there with friends and family, in the summertime, the odor permeates through the community and it stands. And a lot of them can't go in their backyards, especially those with breathing, allergy, asthma issues. It's problematic. And we watched the Moody fire unfold a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And if something like that were to happen over here, it's in close proximity to Magnolia School. So you have to be prepared for something like that. So what would we do in that case? So it's in our best interest to move ahead with a letter, a notice on our behalf of our city, they're an environmental law firm, asking the city of Birmingham to proceed with closing that dump because it's problematic for our citizens. It's an eyesore. I mean, think about this. What if Trussville took all our garbage to the city of Birmingham in the middle of the high density housing and dumped our garbage? What do you think they would say?
Well, can I answer your question with a question?
Sure.
Well, so the landfill, like if we took all of Trussville's garbage, like you said, and took it to high density housing in Birmingham, the difference in my mind, and this is where my question goes, is that that proverbial housing you're talking about was there first, whereas here the landfill was here first. So, like, I guess what I'm really driving at is when you said when Birmingham conveyed to the developers that, hey, this thing's almost at capacity. Like, was there ever anything like written, or was this just like a handshake? Like, hey, we're almost done. Like,
Let me go a step further. Um, if you were to like research, there's a lot out there, and there's several organizations that do ambient air quality testing. They're companies, they're nonprofits that do those type of things.
sure,
And invariably, when they do those things, the measures and readings around around the parameters of those landfills come back. It's not positive, not something we want. So
right,
we have an inherent duty, basically, for quiet and peaceful enjoyment as a covenant to one's residential properties. If there's incurrence from a factory or another government that interferes with that quiet enjoyment, then they have a right to address that in litigation. So a lot of communities around the country have closed up types of things because of the impact and potential environmental damage or impact it could have for years to come.
yeah. Well, and to answer your question, the people in the high density housing in Birmingham would be ticked. So yeah,
Yes, we've gotten accustomed to it. You know, we don't think about it, but I look
yeah,
strategically how you mitigate these exposures. See, we didn't do anything by the to the Moody. We had no response to the Moody fires, and that was very impactful to the residents of Trussville. I mean, we played golf at Trussville Country Club, and during
yep.
that heightened time, smoke was so thick coming down, you could not play golf
Mm-hmm.
out there. It impacted people.
Oh yeah, you could smell it all over Trussville. I mean, it was. I mean, didn't that? I'm trying to remember back. Weren't there some days where, when that air quality from that fire was so bad, even in Trussville, that like the
Yes.
schools wouldn't have physical education outside?
They couldn't. They couldn't, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that is. That is. Well, let's start to wrap this a little bit. What else is important to you outside of some of these main, like obviously the finances. We talked about garbage and the landfill and stuff, but what are some other things that are kind of key to you as you move toward August?
Okay, a key to me, you know, foundations are vitally important. Foundations are our finances. Get those in order. Infrastructure begins to build. Then we can, focus on building the best police and fire, public response. We can have. I've been fortunate enough to be the recipient of the just about every time I've asked them for it. Central Alabama Fire Chiefs Association. I've always supported the fire department. We collect their fire dues. We're integral partnership with the fire departments. So I've received the blessing of the Central Alabama Fire Chiefs unanimously, had their backing. The firefighters, the local firefighters here in Birmingham or the surrounding areas, their organizations have always backed me because they know I back firefighters. I've had the unanimous support of the Chief of Police Association of Alabama, or Jefferson County Rep. Every department chief have endorsed me over and over again because we are integral partners in providing them what they need. Those are important. And crime is increasing in all areas for the most part. It's just what it is. With economic downturns, crime seems to increase, and we have to have our public defenders well prepared, well trained, and well managed, and well equipped. So things like that, and then schools. Schools are probably one of the crown jewels of this community, and we continue. Like I've said, nobody's funded these schools in Trussville more than I have. We've been a funding mechanism to fund the schools, and that's never been interrupted. So we have a wonderful group of teachers who love the kids, love teaching, and let's back our teachers. Just like we back our administrators, our teachers cannot be undervalued or underappreciated. They're our community partners. I've been fortunate enough to maintain a friendship with my first grade school teacher all these years. We
Yep.
still talk, and that's been a long time ago. And she actually comes to the office when she can, sits in my office, and we talk. And she calls on the phone, when she can. So I've always had a great deal of respect. I actually got to teach school 1 year of my life while I was in law school. And I'll tell you what, if you haven't done it, school, being a school teacher is tough. It's hard. Preparing the lesson plans, putting up with everything that goes on. So we owe them a debt of gratitude, our teachers. So, and I've been hearing a lot of those are on the campaign trail, and they want good government because it affects the kids and them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the next few months? What do they look like for you? I imagine it's going to be not a lot of sleep and a lot of going.
Yeah, I'm used to campaigning on a countywide basis, going to all the cities, the rich cities, the poor cities, the average, all of them, because I've represented them all. And it's a little different campaigning in your own hometown. So it's a little different. But I tell you what, we've been well received, all of our volunteers, which our volunteers are growing in number every day. It's phenomenal. I've never had this many volunteers on a countywide race. So that shows how people are so interested in this and the outcomes and how much they have invested here and want to see us succeed and want to see this administration go forward.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like voter turnout has long been pretty poor in Trussville, but I've got this feeling that with so many new people running for all the different spots this year that maybe voter turnout will touch 25% of voters this year.
I wouldn't be surprised. I was talking to Mayor Melton this morning, actually talking to him about an issue. And I was saying, I'm not really a technically sophisticated person in regards to all the social media stuff. But, someone set us up an account. I think I said that earlier. We had 19,000 hits in just a couple of days, which was, that's a lot of interest, a lot of people, a lot of inquiring, so, and then the referendum on the ad valorem increase was very significant, and it was unorganized. It was just organic. And if people would have gotten more organized about it, who knows what the numbers would have been. It was just people fed up. And so we've had enough. They showed up. So I suspect there'll be a high turnout.
Yeah.
Mayoral.
That one was tough. Like I had Superintendent Patrick Martin on to talk about it, and I gained I didn't really know him. I didn't know him at all before he came to Trussville, but I sort of found respect for the position he was in for that, because it was like you're kind of like the new guy. You've come from another city. You've come from Vestavia, and one of your first big things as like the new guy in town is to essentially knock on doors and ask for money. And it's like that's got to be incredibly difficult. And it went the way it went, regardless of who would have been, whoever's in the council spots, whoever's mayor, whoever's the superintendent. I think that thing, hindsight being 2020, I think that thing was going to fail at that time, kind of regardless.
Yeah, it didn't matter. The sentiment was pretty strong, and that was a tough sale. It was a tough sale.
Very tough sell. So how do I'm on your website so people can follow it, jtmayor.com. What is the Facebook page? JT Smallwood for mayor?
I think so. I think that's what it is. But
yeah, just pulled it up. JT Smallwood for mayor on Facebook, jtmayor.com. Is that all the online stuff you've got so far?
So far, that's about it. I just rely upon the friends who've always supported us and say, hey, go do it, put a sign up, go do what you're doing. And it seems to work. God only knows. I tried. When somebody asked me, I said, let's try to find somebody that has we need somebody that has a financial background. If we can find that person with governmental experience, I'll back them and I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to quit the job or take the risk. So it's hard. It's hard to find a person with experience that wants to do this.
Yeah, I've learned that so far, talking to especially the people running for council that are first timers. I think they're especially learning that now, the more they get into it, just I'm not saying they've bitten off more than they can chew. It's just more like I didn't realize it was going to be this much this soon, and it's like you've got to really be all in to go for something like that for sure.
You really do. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of competing interest. There's a lot of strong opinions, and there's a lot of emotions charged. So you have to be willing to and able to navigate through that and around it, and do your best.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's end it right there. That's a good one to end it on. I appreciate you taking the time and talking through some of this. It'll definitely be an interesting summer, and come August, maybe we'll do this kind of thing again when we get closer to.
Gary, I would love to, and I appreciate you putting this out there, and I appreciate the time you put into all this, and you're to be congratulated on that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have a good day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.